Locations and distances were not made aware to us at the time that we were on scene.
I thought you photographed the car on scene.
We did, yes.
And I thought you photographed the markers where the wallet and the hat were.
That's correct.
It's just that nobody thought to measure the distance. Is that correct?
Those distances were not measured, no.
Now, as to the car itself, was Officer Slager's car inventory?
No, it was not.
Was Mr. Douglas, was Mr. Scott's, God bless you again, was Mr. Scott's car inventory?
No, it was not.
So that this is the car that was being driven by Mr. Scott that morning, that Mr. Scott ran away from, ostensibly because of a broken taillight, or others would believe for running away from a bench warrant for a family court action. And it wasn't inventory.
No, it was not.
Now, photographs were taken, correct?
Yes, they were.
Marked as 19, defendant's 19, do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And we can show it to the prosecutor. Your Honor, you move defendant's 19. Would you tell the jury what that photograph represents?
This is a vehicle registration for the... Go ahead.
It's a vehicle registration, South Carolina registration form, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And for what vehicle?
This is for the vehicle that Mr. Scott was driving that day.
Where was it found?
I don't recall where it was found. Inside the vehicle.
How about in the glove box? Does that refresh your memory?
Sure.
Was it found in the glove box?
I don't recall where it was recovered from.
So along with the registration, was there an insurance card?
I don't recall whether or not there was an insurance card as well.
Who else explored the interior of Mr. Scott's vehicle?
Agent Brown.
So either you or Agent Brown would have written down someplace what was inside the vehicle, correct?
It's possible he may have written that down.
But you didn't.
I didn't know.
And working in tandem, you weren't checking on each other. You just assumed the other was doing their job, correct?
We do check in with each other as we work.
And are you aware that he did not inventory or write down what was found inside the car?
I know he didn't inventory because we don't do vehicle inventories.
Ladies and gentlemen, stand for a moment. All right.
With all the defendant's exhibits 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, at this time.
Out of objection.
They're admitted without objection.
Appendix 23, please. Agent, did you take that photograph?
Yes, I did.
You had earlier shown us a photograph of a cigarette pack. Is that in this photograph?
Not that I see, no.
Defendants 20, please.
Yes, I can.
Is there a cigarette pack?
Yes, there is.
And how did the cigarette pack get from the parking lot to the interior of the car?
It was placed inside the vehicle prior to it being towed.
By,
I believe myself.
and why would that be done before a photograph was taken?
Why would what be done before a photograph was taken?
The photograph is supposed to represent what the vehicle looked like, what it was last occupied. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And was there any evidence that you had that that cigarette pack, the lighter, was in any way connected to this vehicle?
I believe I was advised at the time that they had come from inside the vehicle.
And so were they fingerprinted, or was DNA, or what type of test was done?
No testing was done on this.
State's exhibit, defense exhibit 20. Tell us what that is.
That's a photograph of the rear driver's seat of the Mercedes.
And what objects are in the rear of the Mercedes?
Looks like a bag of mandarin oranges, a brown paper bag with contents inside, and I think I remember that being a bag of carrots.
And what was in the bag?
The brown paper bag?
Yes.
I don't recall.
Was it ever examined?
It would have been looked at when we went through the vehicle.
Is there a photograph of that?
I don't believe so, no.
Is there an inventory of that?
No, there's not.
With respect to States 21, did you take that photograph?
Yes, I did.
And what is that photograph?
A photograph of the trunk of the Mercedes.
And what can we see in that picture?
I believe those are motorcycle parts.
And whose motorcycle was it?
I don't know.
Did they have any evidentiary value?
Not that I was aware of, no.
Did you take a serial number for those parts?
I believe we looked for a serial number or some sort of identification marks.
In fact, there is no such thing as a serial number on those motorcycle parts. Is that correct?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know if there's a serial number on motorcycle parts. That's why one was looked for.
But if somebody suggested that there was a serial number, certainly you must have been there when that serial number was looked for. Did you look for a serial number? Did you look for a parts number? Did you look for anything that would identify the ownership of those parts?
I believe so, yes.
And did you find a serial number?
Not that I recall, no.
So without a serial number, there couldn't be any call to somebody to say whether these were stolen parts.
I recall Agent Brown making a phone call in reference to the motorcycle parts, but that's all I remember.
Are those police motorcycle parts?
I have no idea.
Did you examine Officer Slager's vehicle?
Yes, we did.
Did you examine the interior of Officer Slager's vehicle?
I believe so, yes.
It's my understanding that you didn't inventory Officer Slager's vehicle, but what is State's Exhibit number 24?
That is the trunk of the patrol vehicle.
Was there a shotgun in car?
I don't recall.
Was there a long rifle in the car?
I don't recall.
What is in that red bag?
I don't know.
Are you familiar that patrolmen go around opening citizens' doors for them using an instrument that can unlock a door?
I've heard that, yes.
And is this the type of bag that it's carrying?
I don't know.
You had indicated that you came back to the scene where the incident took place days later. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you accompanied somebody, I think the word you used, who was doing Faro. Is that F-A-R-R-O or O-W, Faro scan?
F-A-R-O.
F-A-R-O. And is that initials that stands for something? Or is that just a brand name?
I'm not sure.
Tell us what a Faro does to assist you in examining the crime scene that could be helpful for the jury to determine facts in this case.
It's a 3D camera that's mounted on top of a tripod, and it takes multiple scans of a location so that at a later date those scans can be overlapped to provide a 3D view of an area.
And this is a relatively newfangled innovation in law enforcement, is that correct?
From my understanding, yes.
It's something that goes back to the 1990s,
I don't know the history of the Faro.
but it has been used by SLED at least as of April 4th, 2015 on numerous occasions. It was a piece of exploring evidence that was utilized by SLED, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And there's somebody at SLED by the name of, is it Talon, Agent Talon, who's trained specifically in the use of Faro. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that Faro scan was utilized at both the incident site and in the warehouse. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And as far as the warehouse goes, what was Faroed? Is that what you call it? Faroed or scanned, or how would you?
Either one's fine.
If something would, at the warehouse, you Faroed Mr. Scott's car?
Yes, we did.
And you Faroed Officer Slager's car?
Agent Talon farrowed a patrol car that was similar to Mr. Slager's car.
And so the answer is no, you didn't Faro Officer Slager's car.
No, we did not.
You just picked one out of the parking lot that looked white and had blue lights on it and North Charleston insignia on the side, and you Farrowed that.
One that was similar to his vehicle, yes.
But his vehicle was there locked up in this secure warehouse. Correct?
I wasn't aware of that.
Now, that information, that Farrowed information is available for this jury, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
The first time the Faro was used, the case agent said, stop. We don't want a Faro. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Which prevents the jury from seeing the original Faro at the crime scene at the earliest possible time, closest to the date of this incident. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And how many days later did Mr. Talon and Ms. Peterson and the rest of the crew go back to Faro the incident site?
I believe that was done on April 23rd.
19 days after this incident.
That's correct.
It didn't rain every one of those 19 days, did it?
Not to my knowledge, no.
that Pharaoh from 19 days later is available for the jury to look at. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
And that Pharaoh of the incident site is a 3D Pharaoh. Right? It's a 3D image taken by the Pharaoh.
It's multiple images taken by the pharaoh.
So that a juror, if they wanted to, could look at a 3D image so they could better ascertain the locations, the distances, the views of the parties involved that day, as opposed to a 2D photograph.
That's correct.
Because we all know the Earth is round, correct?
Yes,
But a map of the Earth is flat, correct?
that's correct.
And when we lay out the flat map of the Earth, sometimes it doesn't give us the relationships, the distances that a globe is. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's basically the difference between a 3D and a 2D observation. 2D is not as good as 3D in terms of distances, in terms of planes in which evidence might exist. A Pharaoh scan, the reason for that is to give the jury a better understanding of the relationships. Is that correct?
That could be one of its purposes, yes.
Now, how many scientists are at SLED? Do you have any idea?
No, I don't know.
Do you know that the laboratory building at SLED is 3 or 4 stories tall,
Yes, I do.
maybe 100 yards in length?
I don't know how large our lab building is.
And they do forensic testing for ballistics, for tasers, for trace evidence, for DNA. A lot of science is utilized in that building, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And part of that science would be taking Mr. Slager's, you take this downstairs, part of Mr. Slager's shirt and examining the shirt other than just with the eyeball. It can be examined microscopically, correct?
That's correct.
That was done, correct?
I believe it was microscopically examined in a specific area.
For what purpose?
I think it was to look for any sort of defects, marks, etc., that may have been present in that area.
And in fact, they were found. Isn't that correct?
I believe so, yes.
And in fact, those defects that were found on Officer Slager's shirt were consistent with the taser being pressed against him. Isn't that correct?
I would object that this goes beyond her area of expertise, and she didn't do the examination.
You can answer if you know.
That's outside my area of expertise.
It's outside your area of expertise, but it's not outside your area of knowledge, is it?
I was made aware that the shirt had been microscopically looked at, yes.
And that it was consistent with the taser being used against it.
I can't speak as to what is or isn't consistent in reference to what was found within the trace department.
But it was Officer Slager's shirt, correct?
Yes, it was.
Now, were you present or are you aware that Officer Slager's shirt was examined both in daylight, white light, and infrared light?
Yes, I was aware.
You were present.
That's correct.
That wasn't done until January of this year, correct?
That's correct.
And the microscopic examination of the shirt wasn't done until 2 weeks ago.
That's correct.
And that shirt has been in SLED's possession for 18 months, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And we know that a visual examination does not always produce all the information the jury would need to make factual decisions in the case. And that's why it's sent to a laboratory. Is that correct?
That's correct.
so that the jury may have the benefit of a microscopic examination. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that the jury may have a benefit of an infrared photograph of the shirt. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that the jury can have the benefit of an ultraviolet light examination of the shirt. Is that correct?
Yes.
And all those are tools that are in the toolbox at SLED to examine evidence in murder cases.
Those are tools that are available, yes.
Now, do you know, or do you not know, if the case agent in this case, Peterson, stopped the examinations?
I don't know that, no.
When a piece of evidence gets to the laboratory, who controls what testing is done of the evidence?
That's usually a conversation that's had between the primary crime scene agent and the case agent.
So it would be between the primary crime scene agent, Mr. Brown,
That's correct.
and the case agent, which would have been Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
And they're in control, not the person in the lab who has the science background and the technology of how to examine for evidence that would be reliable, accurate for this jury to see.
If a request comes to them, they do have their input as to what's within or not within the scope of their analysis.
And if a laboratory personnel, like PhD or master's degree as you have, make that recommendation, it's not always followed, is it?
It depends on the circumstances.
Well, we know in this case it wasn't followed, correct?
What are you referring to?
I'm referring to the examination of Officer Slager's shirt with ultraviolet lights. Are you aware of that? Are you aware of the laboratory notes which documents the fact that a examination of the shirt was interfered with by the case agent?
No, I'm not.
Have you looked at the laboratory notes?
Which laboratory notes are you referring to?
State law enforcement, Columbia, South Carolina.
There's a lot of analysts there. Which notes are you referring to?
Not an objection, asked and answered. She was part of the note, I think she's entitled to see it. If she's not a part of the note, she has no personal knowledge to testify one way or another.
Rephrase the question, please.
Thank you.
Anything further of this witness by the defense? Redirect.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Agent Johnson, at the time you responded, this was just another officer-involved shooting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And y'all examine or investigate lots of officer-involved shootings. Is that correct?
Yes, we do.
And the information that you have available to you on April 4th, 2015 was Mr. Scott had ran, taser activated, struggle over taser, officer shot him. Pretty much.
Pretty much, yes.
And I'd already pretty much decided at that time this was probably a legitimate exercise of police authority.
It sounded like that at the beginning.
okay? And y'all treated this case like that, correct?
Correct.
Because y'all clear most of these cases by finding that the officer acted lawfully, correct?
I believe so, yes.
That all changed when?
Are you referring to April 4th?
Pardon me?
I said, are you referring to April 4th?
Didn't change on April 4th. When did it change? How about the video? When the video came out,
Oh.
did that change this investigation?
Yes, it did.
Now, when you were examining this taser on April the 5th, all you knew was that there was a struggle, correct?
That's correct.
And that the taser may have been struggled over, correct?
Yes,
You had no specifics, correct?
correct.
I'm going to object to the form of the question. This is incorrect.
What were you trying to find on that
The
taser?
objection is the form of the question.
The question was rephrased as an objection. Do you have an objection to the latest question?
I have an objection to any leading questions.
All right, pose the question and do not leave.
What were you trying to find on that taser?
Touch DNA
From who?
from anyone that may have been in contact with the taser.
Was there any reason to believe that Mr. Officer Slager's DNA would not be on that taser?
We expected that his DNA would be on the taser.
So, who other's DNA were you looking for?
Mr. Scott's DNA.
Well, y'all wanted Mr. Scott's DNA to be.
Objection to the form.
Objection sustained.
Are you a law enforcement officer?
Yes, I am.
Is SLED a law enforcement agency?
Yes.
Did you have any information at the time on April 4th or April 5th, whichever prompted you to examine this taser for blood or body
Absolutely,
fluid?
this question right.
Need to hear the entire question.
I said, did you have any information available to you on April the 4th or April the 5th that would have prompted you to examine this taser for blood or body fluids or trace or anything of that nature?
Objections overruled.
No.
Did you have any information on April the 4th or April the 5th to the effect that a struggle had not occurred between Officer Slager and Mr. Scott?
No.
Was there ever any question in the investigation by SLED as to whether or not a struggle had occurred?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And I believe you testified on cross-examination that you did not swab the business end of the taser. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And why is that?
At the time, I don't believe we knew that anybody had been drive stunned.
Anybody, correct? Mr. Scott or Mr. Slager? Would that be a fair statement?
That's correct.
To your knowledge, has Mr. Officer Slager ever claimed to have been drive stunned?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And he's been interviewed by SLED, correct?
Yes.
I mean, to this day, do you have any knowledge?
Not to my knowledge.
Now, the registration of that vehicle that was shown to you, do you recall whose name it was in?
Arthur L. Hayward.
And were you aware that Arthur Hayward was a motorcycle aficionado, much to his bad luck at this point, I'm assuming, but did you know that?
I did not know.
And getting back to the uniform shirt, was there ever any reason to test the uniform shirt for Taylor?
No,
And why is that?
because we had not been made aware that that testing needed to be conducted, that there was a question that needed to be answered in reference to the taser.
Because why?
Because we had not been told that Mr. Slager had been tased, drive-stunned at any point.
Not by anybody else or Officer Slater, correct?
That's correct.
And just one other thing. Back in January of this year, y'all did a bunch of photography regarding Officer Slager's uniform, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And it was with white light, infrared light, and ultraviolet light, and all these alternate light sources, correct?
Yes.
Do y'all have any information as to what marks, if anything, a taser would cause on a shirt?
No, we do not.
Are you aware of any studies that have been done regarding that?
No.
Did y'all even know what you were looking for?
No, we were simply documenting what the shirt looked like, any sort of picks, holes, just defects in general that we saw were just notated.
Okay. And you were basically documenting the condition of the shirt.
That's correct.
Court's indulgence. Do you know if that shirt has always remained in the custody of SLED since it was collected?
It's been shipped out to a different location for external testing.
By the defense team, correct? Yes.
The objection is overruled.
To the defense team, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you know where that was sent and how long was it?
I believe it was sent to WD Forensic in Seattle.
And do you recall when it was?
I believe we mailed that out on January 28th of this year.
Thank you.
Further cross-examination.
Not sure I understood this correctly, but it sounded like SLED throws cases towards law enforcement when they investigate. Is that what SLED does?
No, that's not what we do.
So the SLED reaction to this incident site and the people involved was to determine the facts of what happened, not to slant the facts in favor of law enforcement. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that took place before the video was obtained. Is that correct?
What took place before the video?
Your investigation, was it slanted to the law enforcement community until that video showed up?
Our investigation is not slanted one way or another.
Is it ever slanted towards police officers?
My investigation from a forensic standpoint is never slanted one way or another.
And you don't take a political position with respect to cases, you just tell the jury what your findings were. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Now, this shipping of the shirt to the West Coast took place when?
I believe January of this year.
And at that time, Sled was in possession of the shirt for some 9 months.
That's
Is that
correct.
And you know that this judge didn't allow that shirt to be transferred until the state said that they had completed all the examination of that shirt that they would do or ever do. Isn't that correct?
I don't know.
And it's only after the defense examination that Sled decided to start looking for other evidence. Isn't that correct?
What other evidence are you?
Evidence that a taser had been used against the shirt.
We don't look specifically for evidence that a taser has been used against a shirt.
What was the purpose of looking at the microscopic fibers of the shirt?
I can't comment as to a trace analyst's job.
Now, let's talk about trace analysis. Trace involves gunshot residue,
Yes.
transfer of fibers,
Fibers?
yes,
Yes.
transfer of hair,
Yes.
transfer of touch DNA,
Potentially, yes.
examination for bodily fluids, sweat, blood, tears, correct?
I'd say that's more on the DNA side of the house than on the trace side of the house.
How about dirt? Nothing complicated about dirt, is there?
I hope not.
And it wasn't until 2 or 3 weeks ago that Sled discovered that there was dirt in the pocket of the Slager shirt. Isn't that correct?
I have no knowledge of any dirt.
You don't keep up with what the lab does.
I do keep up with what the lab does, but I hadn't been made aware of any dirt.
As the crime scene investigator, were you aware that there was yellow paint on Mr. Scott's cell phone?
Not until recently, no.
And as the Sled evidence gatherer, did you go out and take a scrape of paint from yellow brick roads?
No, I did not.
And the purpose of doing that would be to compare it with any paint samples that may have been on the phone?
If there was a question as to where the phone had been, yes.
And Sled was given paint samples by that defense person in Seattle to examine, or not?
I don't know what the trace department was given in reference to paint.
And those paint samples stayed in Sled's possession for 9 months without any examination. Isn't that correct?
I don't know how long they've been maintained.
Now, there's an inference that came that perhaps the shirt was tainted or in some way disturbed by the defense. Was that your understanding of the question?
I didn't take it that way, no.
Well, what would be the purpose of the question to ask you if it left the hands of Sled?
Your Honor, the question is sustained.
Did you take photographs of the shirt before it went to Wine Laboratories?
I believe the photos that we took at the beginning of January document the overall nature of the shirt.
And that was before the shirt was shipped, correct?
That's correct.
So that there was any destruction or messing or tainting of the evidence, you all have proof of that, correct?
That's correct.
And there was no tainting by anybody associated.
Formal question.
Is there any evidence that your testimony about the transfer of evidence to the defense, is there any evidence that it was in any way disturbed, changed, challenged, or anything of that nature?
No.
Or was it any answer to the defense?
No.
And in fact, a SLED agent was present in Seattle upon the defense opening the package and seeing the fibers on the taser, correct?
That's correct.
The defense didn't touch it until SLED arrived in Seattle so that you could observe, not you, but the SLED agent could observe the testing. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
And prior to that time, the state lab never evaluated what fiber transfers may have occurred on the taser. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And before the taser was shipped to Taser International in October of 2015, the defense had no opportunity to examine the taser, correct?
I don't believe so, no.
And if the taser was shot and used and triggered or whatever, any fabric that may have been on the taser would have been destroyed during the course of the state's examination of the evidence. Isn't that correct?
I can't speak as to trace evidence possibly being destroyed.
But that was in the custody of the state of South Carolina when that testing was done. Correct?
The Taser International testing or the
Yes,
fiber?
Taser International.
No, that was sent to, the taser was sent to Taser International.
With a check from the State Law Enforcement Division. With a check. So that it was a state-sponsored examination. Is that correct?
I don't know who paid for the taser examination.
And the defense was never allowed, of course, to participate in that observation of that examination. Correct?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And the state didn't have an opportunity at that time to prevent any disruptive testing. Isn't that correct?
Not to my knowledge, no.
3 days later, after the defense heard about it, this judge issued an order, no more disruptive testing of any evidence. Isn't that correct?
I believe so, yes.
No further questions, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Step down. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break now. Please go to the jury room and do not discuss the case.